as long as their activity does not interfere with other children's rights and freedom to do the same. So when children are given freedom in a Montessori environment, they are free to think for themselves, to make judgments, and to manage the consequences of those judgments. In an environment for children, in a Montessori environment, children are free to choose activities from among those that have previously been introduced to them. So the child must have had the activity introduced to them so they know how to use the materials. So this means that they can accomplish a task successfully and get the correct developmental benefits that the material has to offer. They're also free to work with an activity as long as they wish, and this is when learning is happening. So the calm is setting in, the concentration is setting in. So if they work with an activity, as long as their interest dictates, an internal satisfaction is achieved. They're also free to choose their place of work and the people with whom they want to work with. They're free to communicate with others and work without interruption. Now, this is really important because, I mean, can you imagine the frustration you would feel if you were fully immersed in a task, deep in concentration, and then you were suddenly jarred out of your thoughts? So it's the same for a child. Once their concentration is broken, it's very difficult to engage them into the environment again. There should be no name calling from across the room, or asking the child if they want to get their nappy change, or interrupting them for, to come and have morning tea. You just got to let them be for that moment, as long as it may be. It is their time to fully develop their learning, concentration, and independence skills, free from unnecessary adult interruptions. Okay. Our next component is structure and order. So the idea behind this principle is to reflect the structure and the order of the world, so that the child can internalize the order of their surroundings and therefore begin to make sense of the world around them. So order and stability are vital to a child's sense of well-being. Children depend a great deal on external order in the environment to support the development of an emerging internal mental order. So for this reason, children in a Montessori classroom need an ordered, predictable environment from which they can derive meaning, so they're able to build knowledge and understanding of the world and their place in it. It is important to make the environment inviting for learning. The atmosphere, therefore, should be prepared beautifully and simply, in such a way that evokes peace, tranquility, and harmony. The learning environment should also be uncluttered and well maintained. So we as adults find something aesthetically pleasing. It brings a sense of calm and peace to us. This is the same with children. When they are in an environment that is beautiful, neat, tidy, and orderly, the atmosphere is one of peace and tranquility, which helps the child feel calm and relaxed, which then leads to curiosity, exploration, discovery, and learning. Nature, natural and real. So Maria Montessori believed that nature should be used to inspire children. That's why Montessori teachers regularly take the children into nature and use natural learning materials in the prepared environment. And these materials include, wood, glass, rather than synthetics or plastics. So natural and real, Montessori believed a child should use real materials in the classroom. She believed that imagination is the natural inclination of the child, and it stems from what is real, giving them a real understanding of their world. For example, we in our classroom use glass, and if it breaks, the child will quickly realize the implications and the dangers, and the next time we'll be more careful. So it's all part of the learning skill. And nature, well, there's no better way for a child to discover, learn, and develop the curiosity about nature than our very own forest school. The prepared environment should support social development by encouraging freedom of interaction. So Montessori classrooms foster the development of a sense of compassion and empathy for others, causing children to become more socially aware. So the greeting at the door upon entry into the classroom, watching staff interact, Lessons of grace and courtesy are some of the examples of a social environment. The environment must be prepared to enable the child to become physically independent of the adult. Now, because the child is able to do things for themselves, they start to develop confidence, and with this comes independence. The environment must allow for this both in the way in which the materials are prepared and in the approach of the adults. So again, the child-sized furnishings and materials make them independent because they are not depending on adults for any assistance. Another non-negotiable part of the environment is the formation of a community with a mixed age range. This allows for children to learn from each other in a non-competitive atmosphere and directly prepares the child for living in society. So the mixed age range enables older children to teach the younger ones and learn much themselves from the experience, while the younger children are inspired to more advanced work through observing the older ones. With such a variety of levels in the classroom, each child can work at their own pace, unhindered by competition and encouraged by cooperation with each other. Movement. The environment must allow the child's free movement so that they can exercise their freedom to bring themselves into contact with things and people in the environment that they need for their development. So Montessori based her method of education on the logic that learning is linked to movement. For example, the children trace the sandpaper letters while they learn the sounds. They match the color tablets and find corresponding colors, within the classroom. They handle the cylinder blocks or the pink tower, learning subtle differences in the weight and the size as they manipulate these materials. There's a great deal of movement that's happening in the classroom all the time. The children will choose an activity, they walk it to its place wherever they want to work. They walk to the place where they want to find the activity, they pick it up, they carry it back to the table or the mat. So much work is done on small mats or small rugs on the floor. They then complete their work, they stand up again, they return it to the shelf, they come back, they roll their mats and they put it away. So there's that constant movement within the room. And there are also other forms of movement activities in which we can develop. The child, such as walk in the line or deep breathing exercises, playing games, music and movement, yoga, or the one that Lee does with the lighting of the candle and practicing the calming exercises and meditation. So I don't know, can you see how all of these are linked within each other?
It's all with independency kind of, is it?
Sorry?
It is all supporting independency of the child, is it?
Yes, yeah, so it's all sort of interlinked. All these that we're looking at are all, independence, they're all interlinked, yeah. All right, well, there's two more components of the prepared environment, which are the adults and the materials. So the role of the adult is also part of the Montessori environment. And the role of the adult in this environment is to facilitate the child to teach themselves by following their own internal urges that will lead them to take what they need from things and people around them. So the directress or the guide's role is to connect the children with the Montessori prepared environment. In general terms, the directress's role will include preparing the learning environment, linking the children to the appropriate activities, leaving children free to engage in an activity until their interest is satisfied and only assist when required, coordinating the balance of freedom within limits, and recording the children's progress. As educators, we must aim to develop warm and supportive relationships with the children, marked by respect for the children's abilities and individual developmental needs. So don't forget that every child is at a different level of learning, and we must be aware of this so we can provide the child with the right learning needs. So for example, if a child wants to work with the hundreds board, but has not mastered the concept of the sandpaper numbers, we as the directress must steer the child in the right direction. And finally, the materials. So the materials that we choose for the environment must act as keys to the child's development, and we need to prepare the environment with this in mind. The keys we choose will be directed to the child's essential development needs at any age range. So children are shown how to use the materials in concise and very precise lessons, and these are what we all know as presentations. Once children have had a presentation delivered to them and know how to use the set of materials, they are then free to work with the activities and exercises aligned with those materials as often and as long as they wish to. Many of the materials have an inbuilt control of error, enabling the child to learn independently with minimum adult help. So say, for example, the cylinder blocks, the child will know if they've made a mistake because the cylinders will not fit properly into the compartment. So they will figure this out by themselves. So as a result, from an early age, children in a Montessori setting build confidence in their own abilities and to take responsibility for their own learning. Although activities are prepared with their own developmental aim in mind, they also prepare for something that will come later in the child's development. Sometimes this preparation is for something that will occur in the same plane, but it also refers to something that may occur much later. So say the child is using a metal inset. When this is presented, it must be done so correctly, just like any other piece of equipment. It is fundamental to the child's learning an activity as simple as this to be presented properly because it has so many developmental benefits. So at the time of using the inset, it's developing concentration, high-hand coordination, pencil grip, development of fine muscles, development of the larger muscles because of their posture when they're sitting. It's developing order, repetition, and memory recall. These are skills that are being developed at the time, but it's also indirectly preparing the child for reading and writing because they are learning to draw a line from left to right, top to bottom, and start and stopping. So this is a really important material. A really important part of Montessori materials is the development that's happening at the time, and then the development that will happen later on. So that brings us to the end of the components within the environment. So now we'll just take a look at the 5 key learning areas. Within our prepared environment, there are 5 key learning areas, and these are practical life, sensorial, culture, maths, and language. So the practical life activities are the foundation of the entire Montessori curriculum. Its direct aims are activities devised to refine fine motor development and help the child learn to focus, concentrate, allow a sequence, foster independence, and develop good work habits. Montessori practical life exercises are designed to prepare the child for daily living by teaching them how to interact with their environment. These exercises are meant to resemble everyday activities as they use the materials that are both breakable and functional. They all real. This area of learning sets the foundation for all other activities in Montessori education, reinforcing the Montessori principles of independence, coordination, concentration, self-control, self-awareness, and confidence. And the materials in this area are mainly developed for the care of self. So your dressing frames, hand washing, getting a drink, food preparation, care of environment, caring for our indoor plants, our pets in the classroom and outside, our worm farm, our outdoor plants, and forest school. And then grace and courtesy. So the greetings in the morning as the children enter the room, group lessons on how we use our manners to say please and thank you and excuse me. Sensorial activities allow the child to refine each of their senses: sight, touch, smell, taste, sound, and stereognostic. Montessori sensorial exercises focus on developing the child's ability to understand and adapt their environment. This area of learning includes the manipulation of specifically designed materials that isolate the senses, exposure to sensory information such as dimension, color, shape, texture, smell, and taste helps a child classify and categorize the things around them as they explore the world. So the hands-on materials isolate one concept at a time and guide the child to discriminate sound. So we could use the sound cylinders, color, the color tablets, size, we could use the pink tower or the broad stair, weights, we could use the barrack tablets, texture, the rough and smooth boards, shape, taste, smell, and they all direct preparation for maths and language development and all academic learning and critical thinking. So, and if you can see that sensorial is directly linked to maths and language. So for example, the foundation of geometry is developed through the sensorial materials using the geometric solids as a basis for computing volume and surface areas for later maths. The binomial and the trinomial cubes are all geometric representations of algebra and geometry used later on in higher maths. And sensorial activities also indirectly prepare for base counting. So the pink tower has 10 graded cubes increasing in size by 1 centimeter. The brown stair has 10 graded prisms, each 1 centimeter larger than the last. And the long rods are graded from 10 centimeters all the way up to a meter in length. Culture allows the child to explore the natural world around them and includes geography, zoology, botany, history, and science. Montessori cultural exercises focus on allowing the child to experience their place in the world and gain an appreciation and respect for differences. So the materials we use explore the cultural areas within the learning environment. This area of learning helps the child discover the world around them and understand their own significance in it. So a lesson, we could say, introducing continents. We could start off by talking about the familiar continent in which we live and then go on to explore Australia and learn about the culture, our famous iconic buildings, the flag, the animals. There's so much we could explore. And then from this, we could go on to talk about maybe the educators and show the children using the globe where we come from, the different countries that we originate. We could see if the children recognize the country and the continent from which their parents may come from. We could learn about their culture. For example, we've got a little boy, Patrick, he's from Hungary. So we could locate Hungary on the globe, find the continent in which it sits, look at the flag, learn how to say hello in Hungarian, talk about the national dress, the food, and then we could even invite Patrick's parents over for a talk. Maybe mum could come and cook a meal for us or show us an art activity or a traditional dress. There's so much that you can teach children with regards to culture, and this is just geography. So there's still history and science and zoology and botany. So this is a huge area, and the children can get so much out of this area if it is all prepared, you know, with the child in mind. And then we move on to maths. So maths is an abstract concept. Children are naturally attracted to the science of number. They're trying to understand their world and make sense of their environment. They have an inborn ability to see differences in similarities, patterns, and sequences. The child learns to notice and adapt to changes in the environment, and as the child's knowledge of the environment grows, they are able to make a mental cap and feel comfortable in their space. The Montessori maths materials that are designed for categorizing and sorting to help build an internal order. So the maths exercises focus on bringing order to the child's experiences. So this area of learning prepares the mind for further exploration by first introducing sequential work, including an understanding of numbers through to 10. So each exercise builds upon another, and the child gradually moves from concrete to abstract areas such as place value, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and even fractions. So when we're introducing, for example, say a child to the decimal system, 1 unit, 110, 100, 1000, this is the concrete experience. The child is actually feeling the golden beads and experiencing what they feel like, what they look like. This is a sensorial learning. And then we move on to, so that's the concrete, and then we move on to the abstract, which is the actual written numbers. Activities dealing with mathematics are not implemented at a set pace, allowing the child to grow at their own natural pace. So it's important that the children are not rushed or pushed when working in this area. You could be doing more damage to their learning and furthermore setting them up for disappointment. So it's very important that they grasp one concept before moving on to the next. And we move on to language. So Montessori language exercises focus on increasing the child's listening skills, comprehension, and vocabulary. Scientific research backs up the Montessori belief that children are born with what they need to develop language and that they absorb language with little effort. Building a strong vocabulary sets the foundation for understanding the importance of the communication and developing increased reading and writing skills. So in a learning environment prepared for children, the educators must strive to create an enriched language environment. Adults within the environment provide children with good models of language at all times. They must listen attentively, respectfully, and responsively to all communications made by the children in the environment. So if you look at the Montessori language area, the materials are sequential. So first it's the spoken language, and the next step is the phonic awareness. This is when the child learns the sounds within the words and the sounds of the alphabet using the sandpaper letters. We then move on to creating words, which is word building, putting those sounds together to make the words, which is then progressed to reading and also writing. That brings us to the end of the importance of the learning environment. So I hope that you can understand why the prepared environment is so important. It not only enables the child to be productive in their learning, but it tells the child that they are important, that their needs and abilities have been taken into consideration, and that they're in a place where they can succeed not only in the academic development, but also in those activities that are practical to everyday life.
So, Sharona, can you throw in some information there about how you see the sensorial and mathematics connecting in the classroom? I think I can stop doing a share screen. Are you still there, Nadia?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Has anybody got any questions off the top of their head first?
Yes, I got a question, please. Today, for example, some children didn't want to work and there were the schoolies as well. So what should we do with the children that don't want to work so it doesn't get too busy in the room and they're just walking from one side to the other?
So the children, sorry, you said that there were children that didn't want to work?
Yes.
So what did you do to try and sort of encourage them to
I was suggesting different activities. I would go with them through the room and say, would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? Would you like to draw a picture?
So what were they doing?
They were just walking.
So they weren't disturbing anybody, they were just walking and observing?
Well, they were interacting with each other.
I think that's not a bad thing if they were sort of interacting with each other and walking through the environment, just sort of watching the others working. I think that's not a bad thing, because they are learning just by doing that. If they are actually interrupting and interfering with other children's work, well then they need to be redirected. But if they're wandering around the room and just taking in what they're observing, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
What if they start to play role play, or like get a bit not quiet, like more louder? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you have at Greenheart the indoor-outdoor program as well?
I guess so.
Yeah. So perhaps you could take them outside for a nature walk, or maybe find something in the outdoor area that could trigger their interest. You'll always find something outside. You could do a lesson outside with them.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was thinking about that. I was just not sure if that might get into a habit, or I don't know. Maybe today was just a different day than usual.
It'd be hard in the school holidays when you've got school children who haven't potentially been in Montessori as well, because they don't understand the work cycle or the normalization. So it might be something that any centre that has that mixed age with the school age, that maybe that school age program needs to not be involved in the work cycle in the classroom.
Okay.
Any questions, Taylor? Turn yourself off mute.
I just figured it out then. I guess I'm still getting used to how it all works, but I agree with, like, in situations where a couple of children aren't interested in actually doing a work cycle, or and how to steer them into trying something or doing something so they're not disturbing other children. I guess that's something I've got to learn to master. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, help them and guide them to try something different instead of just wandering around, or
Sometimes it comes in the way educators you've got to make the activity sound magic. As in, you've got to love them, you've got to make it inspiring that they want to do it. And I know that if you're new to Montessori, or you don't really understand what you're doing with the activities, and sometimes that gets lost and the children pick up on that, and it's, well, maths is boring. I always hear mum and dad complaining about, numbers, or my brother comes home from school and hates maths. So maths must be boring, and I don't want to do that. Why would I want to do that? But we've got to, especially the guides in the room, so not so much, the peacekeepers, you've still got to have the magic, but the ones who are doing the presentations really need to love what they're doing, and love what they're showing, because you're convincing that child to give it a go, and then they fall in love with it.
Yeah, totally agree.
How about you, Daniel?
No questions. Maybe when they come in from outside, and they just want to sort of lay about for 5 minutes, is that okay? Is that like them just transitioning their body to say, hey, I'm coming in from outside, I just need to relax before I do something?
That's you, Nadia.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is more than acceptable. It's just their way of sort of calming and getting that peace and tranquility, and just that calming before they start their activities, or they start their day. I don't see anything wrong with that, Daniel.
Cool.
I noticed that a lot of them lie when they come in the book area, and sort of just lie there and interact really nicely with each other. So they were learning and developing while they're actually doing that, because sometimes there's really good conversations that are happening. It's when it becomes too many children, and the noise level goes up too quickly, that we need to come in as the educators and sort of guide them and steer them in different directions. But certainly when they come in for them to do that, that's not a worry.
They're actually doing it calmly, then cool. If they're jumping on each other or pretending to be cats and dogs and things like that, then that's different.
Yeah.
But there is sometimes those moving from a noisier area, such as outside, into the work cycle. It needs that space for transition. And that's where some of the questions you might ask is, do you need to do a group time before work cycle happens, or can you start bringing people in as they're ready for the work cycle at, different 5 minutes between each other or whatever it is? Is group time the best thing to happen before starting the work cycle? Do you need it? And you might. It's just asking those actual questions of what's in the best interest of the children, and all of them actually getting that transition they need from outside to inside, because not everybody does it the same. Who else is on? Amy, any thoughts?
It's probably just also just being more that observer too in the environment, because your eyes are the best sort of knowledge to know what is happening in the environment. So once you prepare it and stuff, sometimes it's really hard for us to sort of stand back and just let the children be while they're unwinding and while they're sort of transitioning in from inside outside. We sort of want to jump on them and sort of want to have that sort of adult will, just all that go, let's quick, because that's what we're all used to, sort of that rush and go. So it's about us learning to slow down as well with the children and just observing more and guiding them gently into where they sort of learning as well, I think.
Yep.
You're guiding them, and then once they are engaged in an activity, never to interrupt them.
Yes. Yeah.
Whatever it may be, because some of them are really focused and engaged, and there's some amazing learning going on. And the worst thing you can do is just come and interrupt that, because that moment will never come back again.
Yes, exactly. Or in that when there's a teacher teaching that moment as well, like to interrupt them for like, okay, it's time for you to have morning tea or this or that. It's probably just observing to see if they're actually learning and interacting with that activity first, instead of rushing them off because you've got to get certain things done at certain times.
Yeah.
Sort of things. So just like taking back and just sort of observing and knowing when to interrupt or when to step in, like when it's becoming a bit too disruptive. And that not engaging, because you'll see the children like look around and not actually focus on the material, like, yeah, I'm really pouring, but I'm not really. So it's time to let's tidy that up and let's try something else and come over here. I've got something else.
Yeah. And the more calm we are as the educators in the environment, automatically the children will become more calm. The louder the educators are, and the more rushed about they are and moving around the room, the children are going to role modeling, and they're going to pick that up. So we have to make a conscious effort all the time to be as calm as we can, to move slowly, to talk gently with respect, not to call out across the room, just to have that respect at all times, because we're role modeling for the kids and they really need to see this. And then that's when we get that peace and tranquility in the classroom.
Ashley?
Yes.
Any thoughts on, or any questions about tonight?
No questions. I agreed with everything, and I thought it was very good to hear and everything like that. So thank you.
Awesome. 3. Happy, you might be, I don't know if you can come off unmute. If Hanor's asleep, you can. And if you've got any questions. Not usually. How about you, Sue? All right. Well, we might end tonight. If you've got any questions, send us an email. But thank you for joining in. And next Monday night is the toileting and food for 0 to 6. So that will be 7:30 on Monday night. Thanks so much, Nadia, for tonight. It's been awesome to hear from you. And yeah,
Thanks, Rebecca. I actually expected it to go for 45 minutes and not as short as it was. So I'm sorry, guys, that it went for a little bit shorter, but I did go through it, and 45 minutes is, so yeah.
It's all good. You always talk faster when you're talking to others as well, though.
Yeah.
So we've got, and everybody will like the early mark. So we'll I will see you guys online next week, and for those who I see in person, I'll see you in a few days.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.